Hi, folks. This is Rick Doc Walker, the DOC.
This is John Kime, and you're listening to the Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Tailgate Ted back in the Mess Hall, my man Rally Captain.
Ooh, Ted. We've got a new week on our hands, brother. And I'm ready. Let's get it.
We do, man. It's an exciting week, and you and I were chatting in Chicago, and I know a lot of people say this. It's not about who you play. It's about when you play them. And we'll be going back and forth with a bunch of fans on social media, back and forth, you and me. And a lot of people would have chalked this game to the Packers as an immediate L when the schedule came out. I know when I did my schedule review of Fox 5, I had us at an L, but we'll jump into it here in this episode on maybe why some things are changing.
No, definitely, bro. Definitely. That's why I'm showing all 32 right now.
I hear you, man. I hear you. And we would be remiss if we didn't thank our friends from Woodbridge Collectibles for sponsoring this episode. You know, those guys helped us out in Chicago. There was a guy that won, actually one of the guys that was on my flight, won that D Hall jersey. And I remember him talking about, man, I need to get this thing framed. And we made sure he saw that koozie inside that little gift package they gave him to talk about framing that jersey for him and hit up those guys.
Yeah, man. You know, the thing about Woodbridge Collectibles is we all know that they have jerseys, they have fan, paraphernalia, cards and jerseys and pictures and things like that. But what a lot of people don't know is they actually do a great job of framing the items that you bring to them or that you buy from them. And the beautiful thing about it is because they are our sponsor, if you mention the DMV Mess Hall, they're offering 20% off of framing. Now, here's the thing. We know that no one likes to think about this, but it's inevitable. Christmas is right around the corner. And I don't know how many people I talked to that said that they need to get something framed, or even if it's not something that's a fan aspect of things, just a regular frame, they can do it. And 20% off of something that you need anyway, just mention the DMV Mess Hall. Come on, guys. It's a no-brainer. It's easy money in the bank. It really is.
Yeah, man. Every little bit helps out, especially around holiday season. So like Rally said, it doesn't have to be a jersey, doesn't have to be a picture of, maybe Clinton Portis that you're going to get taken care of and autographed at their next signing down in Bob Beach. It can be a picture of you and your family, you and your dog, whatever it may be. Hit those guys up, woodbridgecollectibles.com, let them know. And, my Sean Taylor jersey is one of my most prized possessions I've got, memorabilia-wise and just as a fan. And I trusted them to frame that thing for me. And I'm damn glad I did, because they did an amazing job. And I know they'll do the same thing with your guys' stuff. So whatever it may be, make sure you hit those guys up, get that discount code, support them. They support us, and we really appreciate y'all giving them a look.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And once again, it's woodbridgecollectibles.com to be able to, you guys will be able to go on their website and you'll be able to actually see their work in real time. Because a lot of times, let's face it, I don't know about you, Ted, but I like to touch, I like to see, I like to feel. Well, the internet has brought all that home, man. So you can do that right now through their website to see exactly what your item would look like framed. So it only makes sense, man.
Amen, man. Amen. Really appreciate those guys. And we want to dive right into it. So there's been a lot going on, which I'm assuming everyone knows if you watch or listen to the show. Dan Snyder had basically got himself thrown under the bus by Jim Irsay. And the ESPN article that came out last week, Jim Irsay basically said that he thinks there's merit to remove Dan Snyder as owner. All of this right now is great for people that want Dan removed. I'm not saying that Rally and I are either way on that. All I'm saying is, from my standpoint, I am just leaving it as is until the results of the Mary Jo White investigation come out. I'm tired of non-football stuff getting in the way of us being fans, of me enjoying the team. and there's an ongoing investigation. And Roger Goodell himself said that there's no reason for speculation until that comes out. So until that Mary Jo White report hits and we actually know what's going on here, at least from my standpoint in the mess hall, just going to leave it at that. I want to talk football. I want to talk X's and O's. I want to talk about being a fan. I want to talk about tailgating. I want to talk about rallies. And that's just how I'm going to handle that from that standpoint. But I didn't want to not address it because it is top of mind right now and in the headlines.
Yeah, man. And I'm with you. You know, the deal is this: what's going to happen is going to happen. It's inevitable. All right. So just hold on to your pants. Don't get it, you know what, in a bunch. Just relax. Let it go. Because realistically, do you have any control over it? Nope. So the chips are going to fall how they may. Somebody's going to be happy. Somebody's going to be mad. That's just how life is. Moving on.
Yeah. Amen, man. And I just want to make sure that we talked about that real quick. But moving on, we're on to another week. We got the Packers and another quarterback. So
wounded Packers.
Carson fractured his ring finger. We talked about it on our last episode. Those of you that haven't listened to it, go back to our Bears recap. And he got surgery. He stayed out in LA and actually underwent surgery, and he's already started his rehab. So this was Ron Rivera talking yesterday about Carson and that surgery.
Just if you can fill us in on Carson Wentz and just what's going on with him to start with.
For the most part, he did have surgery yesterday on his right hand. He's going to be in LA for a couple of days. He's been doing rehab already, and we'll get a little bit more update by the end of this week as far as he's concerned.
And then obviously Taylor will be going.
Yep, Taylor will start. He'll be backed up by Sam.
And then with Taylor, what kind of spark can he provide? Do you feel like he can maybe, because of some of the skill sets he has?
Well, I think because of the familiarity and the things that we do, it'll be an easy transition for us. I think with Taylor too, there is always that ability to run the ball. He's got a little bit of that in him. So it'll be interesting, because the things that we'll do, we'll most certainly do will match his skill set.
So none of this is new information. And, we all understand that it's Heinicke's game to play. One thing that did happen is the Commanders decided to pick up Jake Fromm. And this is actually Rivera talking about that and why.
Is the IR decision coming later this week? Is that influenced by?
That's influenced by the next few days. That's why, he stayed. The doctors wanted him to stay, obviously, just so he could start the rehab process, and then we'll get an assessment as to where he is at the end of the week.
And can you tell us what led you guys to Jake as the new third quarterback?
He's a guy that we've seen. We know a little bit about him. He was in a pretty good system when he was up in Buffalo, so he's a guy that we feel that, if we ever got into an extreme emergency, he's a guy we believe could learn very quickly.
So Washington fans might remember Fromm. We played him last season in Week 18 when we played the Giants. So He was a fifth-round pick by the Bills in 2020. He got cut. The Giants actually signed him in November of 21 after Daniel Jones had a season-ending neck injury. So when we played Fromm, he didn't do too well. I mean, the Giants in general weren't doing that well, and I think their coach got fired after that game. And if Fromm actually makes it in, we got a big problem. And I'm hoping that we never see him come off that practice squad. But he's basically in an emergency quarterback that they decided to add. And I know we said in the previous pod we weren't going to talk about practice squad players, but this is kind of an important practice squad guy that, I don't want to say Heinicke could go down and Fromm could get elevated up to 2, but being realistic, Heinicke does have a propensity for getting hurt, and he does like to run around and scramble. So he is one hit away from Howell coming in and Fromm stepping in to that other spot. So we'll see what happens.
Well, hell, any football player is one hit away. But that brings up a good point that you made, Ted, because if you remember, and if our loyal listeners remember, I had a question before we ended our last show. And I said I was going to wait until this show to bring it up. So without further ado, my question was, and it got answered, because I was going to say, okay, so hypothetically, you know, we don't want anything to happen to Heinicke, but if something did, and then how was the backup? Obviously, who was our third quarterback? And you said Logan.
Well, he
And
is
then,
technically.
and I got you. So,
Yeah.
but then I said, well, wait a minute. We know that Logan technically hasn't been a go. So because of that, who would that quarterback be? And my question was going to be, would it be Fields, because he played quarterback and transitioned to tight end? But we don't have to answer that now because we have Jake Fromm.
So the difference is going to be, you have to activate Fromm. So on game day this weekend, I doubt he's going to be active.
Right.
So because he's not part of those active players, we would have to wait and see what happens in another game the week after when we play Indy. And I'm not trying to plan for, someone to get hurt, but that's what it would come down to. The good news is Logan was out there, but he wasn't a full participant today.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. So because of that, who would our emergency quarterback be then? With that being said.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. It potentially could be
probably Fields.
Talking about Fields. What do you mean Fields?
The tight end, isn't that his name, 88 Fields?
No, that's Armani Rogers.
Oh, Rogers, my bad.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm getting Fields from.
But we're still thinking of Chicago, maybe.
But he would be our backup because he played quarterback, I'm assuming, right?
That's a good question. It hasn't actually been asked by Rivera. I'm not sure. Just because you played quarterback doesn't mean you know the offense and the system. So I'd be curious to see who takes that load, because Rodgers, it is his first year with the team. Mm-hmm. So does he know the system enough, being a tight end, to handle that? All I'm praying is we never find out, because if we lose Heinicke and we lose Howell, I remember a body bag game when Mitch ended up finishing a quarterback.
Yeah, I remember that as well. But see, once again, a true fan will ask those questions. And that's the reason why I brought it up, because I don't know. You don't know. And I don't think any of our listeners know. Hell, I don't even think any of the pundits know. So it's something that for you guys, the junkies, or any of you other, host bigger radio shows that are listening that have access to the coach, ask them for the DMV Mess Hall, please.
Yeah, it was actually funny because on Heinicke's press conference today, he was talking about how in a huddle, J.D. McKissick finishes calling the plays for Heinicke sometimes, because J.D. knows the offense that well. Wow. And Heinicke said if J.D. could actually throw, he could be quarterback too. But I don't know if that was a little dig at J.D. having a worse arm than Taylor. But, who knows? Those guys go back and forth and they all love each other. JD is one of the most popular guys in the locker room. And I'm just hoping and praying that we never see it. And
exactly. Yeah.
We made a comment as to why Taylor should be starting over Howell last episode. And this is actually Ron talking about why that's going to happen.
Is there any consideration to going with Sam to maybe see what he brought, or was the focus stick with Taylor? No,
the focus is Taylor. I mean, we're still in a good situation, still early in the year. We like our, what we've got in terms of the skill sets and in terms of our playmakers, guys that we believe we can get the ball to, and don't want to put, Sam in a situation like that this early in his career. We feel he's a young man that as he grows and develops, he's got a chance.
Can you elaborate on where Sam's at, just in terms of his development?
Well, I think Sam is still learning in terms of what we do and how we do it. And how we do it is, that's the part that you've got to get familiar with. There's, how we go through the progressions, stuff like that is all about learning and understanding and feeling in terms of knowing what to do in the offense itself.
But none of this should be read into like he's not. You guys don't think he's on track or anything?
Oh no, we think he's on track. We do, but with Taylor, I think right now gives us the best opportunity to be successful.
And that's really what it comes down to. We're 2-4 right now. We're facing a beatable Packers team, and after that, a beatable Colts team. And who knows if Jonathan Taylor's going to be back when we play the Colts, but let's just take it 1 week at a time. Right. You put the best player out on the field to give you a chance to win. And you got a lot of fans going out there on social media saying, well, Bailey Zappe's starting for the Patriots right now because Mac Jones is hurt and he's a rookie and he's doing what he can do. Okay, well, they don't have another choice. Mac Jones is hurt. They don't have another quarterback to put in there. We have another choice in Heinicke. And I still don't think we're a playoff team, but I still want to see competitive football. And if Heinicke gives us the best chance as fans and for those other players on that team to play competitive football, then he's the right choice.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And so we're riding with Heinicke, man. That's just how it is. You know, our fans, I tell you though, that we're so fickle, and I understand why we are the way that we are. Some people, like you said, you know, when Wentz wasn't doing too well, they said put Heinicke in. Now that they're saying, well, Heinicke's in, now they're saying, well, maybe we should go to Howell. Hey, look, you can't have it, your cake and eat it too, all right? Even though I know that's you have your cake so that you can eat it. But for all intents and purposes, we're riding with Heinicke right now, and we're going to keep it that way. And we're not going to wish anything bad upon it. So we're just going to roll with it. So let's do what we got to do. Squeak out this dub at FedEx Field Sunday. That's what I want, man. That's what
I'm right there with you, man. And I think we're still going to get to see Howell this year. I think maybe towards December, latter part of the season, we'll get a chance to see what that kid's got, because it is a strong quarterback class coming out in this upcoming draft. So depending on what happens, it would be nice to find out if Howell is potentially someone we could ride with. But questions about next season, questions about the draft, it's too early. There's still a lot of football left at 2-4. The next 4 games is really going to dictate what happens. And Carson's going to miss the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So these next 4 to 6 weeks where Carson's out is really going to dictate what goes on. And I don't want to look ahead, but we've got the Packers, we got the Colts, we've got the Vikings and the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
So we could potentially go 2-2 during that stretch,
or
maybe 3-1 during that stretch. I don't see us going 4-0 during that stretch unless something really happens to the Eagles.
You
never know. But I'm putting it now. We're not beating the Eagles Monday night in Philly. I'm just saying. I'm sorry.
You never know.
You never know, but I'm willing to take a bet with anybody out there, any of our listeners. Straight up, we are not beating the Eagles Monday night in Philly, assuming that Jalen Hurts is playing that game.
And one thing that you can say about the rally, Captain, is I paid my bet.
You did.
Chicago.
I got my beer.
Yes,
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. And hopefully a player that will be coming back soon is Chase Young. So Chase is meeting with Dr. Andrews later this week to see if it's time to potentially start his clock.
Mm-hmm.
And starting his clock means if they activate him, then they've got 21 days to move him to that roster. If they take him off of that IR list. Hasn't happened yet, so we're not going to see him this week. But hey, we could get him back to help shut down Jalen for that Monday night game in Philly. Who knows? Or maybe to shut down Kirk when he tries to come back here in the FedEx and make us understand why he didn't sign with us. But someone who I'm hoping comes back this week is Jahan. He was participating in individual drills today. And for those that are wondering, it's Wednesday the 19th at 4 p.m. He did not participate in team drills, but it's a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah, definitely is, man. And we need him, but we want him at 100%, just like Chase. And we want Chase at 100%. And I initially said I don't expect to see Chase. And this is just the rally captain's view. No one else's. I'm not in cahoots with Dr. Andrews or anything like that. But I already said Halloween. So sometime around Halloween is what we will see Chase. So we are pretty much on par with my, Holiday Inn Express MD diagnosis. So we're going to see what happens, man. And if he's ready, hey, man, we need all the help we can get. But I got to tell you, man, since we're talking about that, I am pretty psyched with our defense, the way they've been playing. They've done a total 180 from what I can see from the first 5 games, 4 games. They really have. So I'm liking what I'm seeing, and it looks like they are really playing, 11 as one, and I like that. I mean, we've got some ways to go still, but I like the fact that what these guys are playing together, man. They really are, and you can tell that it's a brotherhood amongst those guys. Not saying that what was going on early on, but fact is, right now, those guys are playing together, and I like what I see.
They definitely are. And that defensive line has stepped up big time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm excited to see what they can do, because I went back and I watched all the Packers losses and I watched their win. And their offensive line is not the same offensive line that we're used to seeing protect Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And I think it was, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Quinnen Williams for the Jets had a heck of a game last week. I mean, he basically took that defensive line over and was in Rodgers' face all day long. And he also had a blocked field goal. I mean, the guy was a wreck.
Wow.
And it's exciting to see, because it's not the same Packers team that we played last year in Lambeau. It's not the same Packers team that beat us in FedEx a couple of years ago for the playoff game and the wild card. So we do have a shot. And according to the NFL, from a power ranking perspective, they have dropped. So we, for the Commanders, we were 30th last week. We beat the Bears.
Right.
Where do you think we ended up this week?
We were 30th before.
We were 30th before, and we beat the Bears.
Oh, okay.
And
29.
I can tell you where the Bears are. Just so you know, the Bears are actually 29th.
Uh-oh. That doesn't leave me much wiggle room, Ted. Ooh. Well, because 29 was going to be my guess. We stayed the same, I think.
Yeah, man. And it's kind of insulting that we beat the Bears and they stayed at 29 and we stayed at 30.
But
And
it's how we beat them, though, Ted. I mean,
a win's a
on.
win. I get it.
It is.
I understand it's how we beat them. And if you go back and look at that Packers and Jets game, if you look at the box score and you didn't actually watch the game, it's kind of misleading on how the Jets ended up winning that game. I mean, you had a block punt, you had a block field goal in there. I mean, special teams was huge in that game. But we beat them. Yeah, it was a muff punt and it was a goal line catch that he didn't exactly have control over, but we still beat him. And I think it's insulting. And if I'm Rivera, and he likes to do his whole David versus Goliath bit from last year, throwing the stone at the board and everything else, I'm putting up that clipping of you're being disrespected. And it's saying the Commanders didn't play particularly well on Thursday night. Well, you know what? No one plays well on Thursday night. It's not just a Commanders thing. It's not just a Bears thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can win simply by letting the other team beat itself. That's how it felt after 2 crucial Bears blunders in the second half. A muff punt and a goal line bobble allowed Washington to escape Soldier Field with a 12-7 win. With Carson Wentz expected to be sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks after fracturing the ring finger on his throwing hand against Chicago, the Commanders will turn to Taylor Heinicke when they host the Packers on Sunday. That's acting like Wentz was playing lights out football, that we're taking a step back. A lot of people out there thinking this offense is going to take a step forward because Carson didn't have time to throw and he can't run. Taylor's got legs. So to me, this is the national media not understanding the type of player Taylor is and how much Taylor is in tune with Scott Turner's system.
And I feel as though he has better pocket awareness, because one thing that I have seen this is no secret, everyone's seen it, when that pocket starts to collapse or starts to shift to the left or to the right, he knows how to step up and take off if he needs to, or roll out. And I'm hoping that they aren't forcing so-called their system on Taylor. I'm hoping that they change it up just a little bit for him to help him with his strengths. That's what I'm hoping for. And come on, guys, you get paid millions of dollars to be able to do that. We as fans don't. And if we can see it, you should be able to see it. Don't be such a hard butt and want to just do things your way because you're the coach. Change it up a little bit. All right. It's called life.
The
Nothing
good news
stable.
is we had a mini bye week.
Yep.
And Taylor was joking at his press conference today. And Carson told Taylor after that Bears game, I think I cracked my finger. Taylor said, don't tell me that, man. I was going to go to North Carolina to go play some golf this weekend. So, that gave Heinicke some extra time to prepare. It
Right.
gave him some extra time to get in the film room and to get his head right and to understand that, hey, next man up, it's me now. It's going to be you going up against Green Bay. And I'm not sure people remember, he grew up a Packers fan. Him and his dad were massive Brett Favre fans. They loved the Packers. One of his last memories with his dad is watching that Packers Super Bowl. So he's going to have some extra motivation because he's getting his job back. And granted, it's due to injury, but also because he's getting to play the Packers. And I'd say on his home turf, I don't think it's going to be a home game for us this week. I think we're getting flooded by Green Bay just because of everything I'm seeing from a tailgate perspective and knowing that just fans aren't coming out. But we are playing here and he doesn't have to worry about traveling. And it's going to be interesting because we did play them last year and he had a decent game. We ended up still losing that game, but we had a decent game last year.
Well, one of the things that kind of makes me go, is have you looked at the weather report? I think there's like a 45% chance of rain on Sunday.
Stray showers. Yeah,
Straight-
it's not.
yeah.
Yeah,
Straight
it's not
showers.
going to be heavy rain. It's just going to be intermittent stray showers just because of the whole cancer thing I'm doing this weekend. Oh, yeah, I'm keeping my eyes on all that. And I'm hearing it's going to be more towards the evening, not during the day.
Okay.
So, and really, if it does rain, that's even better for us. The Packers are not good against the run. And we'll jump into that here in a minute. But from a power ranking, the Packers were 8th last week. They have 2 losses in a row, one to the Giants the week before in London and one to the Jets this past week. Where do you think they rank on that NFL.com list?
You said they were 8th?
They were 8th.
Probably 12 to 15, something maybe possibly.
Yeah, they actually dropped a little lower than that, and they are now 15th.
15, okay.
So
15.
this is no just about an underachieving defense or an offense trying to find itself. The entire operation seems to be out of sync in Green Bay, where the Packers fell back to 500 with a lopsided loss to the Jets at Lambeau. After the game, a beaten down Aaron Rodgers spoke of removing complexities within the offense. A well-worn trope for players questioning the philosophies of a coaching staff. I'm not attacking anything, Rodgers said. I just think that based on how we played the last 2 weeks, I think it's going to be in our best interest to simplify things for everybody. Just simplify some things, and maybe that'll help us get back on track. Well, simplifying things isn't going to fix Aaron Rodgers' thumb. He's got a problem with his thumb. He banged it up in that game in London, and there was a fumble during that game last week where if you look at the replay, people are thinking the ball got knocked out of Aaron's hands. Nah, it just slipped out of his hand. There were a bunch of passes that he just overthrew, he underthrew, and he wasn't under pressure. He looks like he's having a hard time gripping the ball. And some in Green Bay were saying, you're playing the Commanders. Just sit Aaron, let Love play, and let Aaron get right for a game. And to me, that's also insulting. And I wish that Rivera were to use that for motivation for the guys, because, just because we're the Commanders doesn't mean you should take us lightly. This defense is stepping up.
And they're hungry. They're hungry, especially to get back in front of their home crowd. So, because even though there may not be as many fans in the stands as we would like, there's still going to be, we still have a nucleus of burgundy and gold that's going to be in the stadium. So I look for us to bounce back. I look for our defense to have a good game for the players as well as the fans. You know, I really do.
Yeah, and jumping into the matchup, I mean, the Packers are favored by 5.5 points. So I went out to Virginia to take care of my grill. I got run over last week, and I'll tell you that story in person and how it got fixed. But the Packers are giving up 5.5 points.
The last I saw was 4.5, Ted. Did they change it? Did it go up?
It depends on what book you're looking at.
Okay.
But I mean, 5.5, I immediately, when I got to Virginia, pulled over, went on FanDuel, and picked the Commanders to win. Even if we lose by 4, I'm still a winner on that bet. And this isn't a betting podcast, but, you know, they lost 2 weeks in a row. You lose to the Giants, you lose to the Jets, you lose to the Jets lopsidedly like that, and you're 5.5 point favorites coming into my home turf. That, to me, once again, is more fuel to the fire for that defensive line. Say, no one respects us. No one thinks we got a chance. And you throw all this Snyder stuff on top of it and everything else. I mean, Terry McLaurin was asked today in the locker room, is Dan Snyder's situation affecting the locker room? Terry came out and said, anything can be a distraction. If you get a flat tire, that can be a distraction, or you can move on. It's just a matter of how much you let that stuff seep in. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that the team is letting the off the field stuff go, but the on the field disrespect that we're getting heading into this game against Green Bay, who has lost 2 in a row, who doesn't have the MVP Aaron Rodgers that we're used to, who doesn't have Devontae Adams that we're used to playing. I'm hoping that this pisses the guys off enough to ball out on Sunday, to make sure that we don't have another ugly game like we had, especially coming off this mini bye week like we did against the Bears.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera's averaging a quarterback change just about every 4 games since he's been here for 2.5 years.
That's sad.
It is. And that's football. And part of that, you know, whether it was potentially COVID related, having to bring Heinicke in, you know, you had Kyle Allen that broke his leg. You had everything that happened with Alex Smith. You know, they benched Dwayne Haskins, God rest his soul. Well, Heinicke played the Packers last season in Lambeau. And he didn't have the best game throwing. He was 25 of 37 for 268 with a touchdown and a pick. But he did have 95 yards on the ground that day. And he had a 38-yard run. Just the one play I won't forget, and I can't forget, is Heinicke diving too soon and missing the end zone on that goal line.
Yeah. That would have changed the game, yeah.
I think it did change the game. Him just coming up short. And maybe if there was a pylon in the middle of the field and he envisioned diving for it, he would have actually made it across. I don't know if his depth perception wasn't there because he didn't see that big orange stick. But that right there, I think, is what lost us that game. And who I'm excited for this week is Taylor to prove that he can beat them. And Terry, because Terry went for 7 catches for $122 and a touch. And Terry hasn't had a good season so far after signing that big contract. And yeah, part of that's because we got more weapons. And he just doesn't have that rapport with Carson. Well, we know he's got one with Heinicke. Can they actually work on it this week heading Green Bay coming here?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind that they're working on it. There's no doubt in my mind that he's looking at McKissick coming out of the backfield. There's no doubt in my mind, Ted. Come on, bro. This right here is just like butter on bread, man. It's a natural fit. It just is. I think that I said earlier last week or earlier in the week on our podcast that I think that initially he's going to come out flat. That's due to the excitement, due to everything, he's going to come out flat. But I think that give me the second to the end of the second to the beginning of the third, we're going to see a totally different Heinicke. I honestly believe that. Once the jitters get out of his system, I think he's going to be all right.
And to me, that's where Scott Turner has to call a good game plan. Mm-hmm. The Packers are 27th against the run. They're giving up 135 yards on the ground and averaging about 5 yards per rush. And we know that our running back room is finally healthy. B-Rob's going to be back there. AG is going to be back there. And don't forget about JD on a couple of draws and some nice, well-run plays there. So if we get a chance, they are vulnerable. And this is one thing that I saw watching that Jets game. It was, I think, a half a quarter to go. The Jets had 4 straight runs of 12 yards, 12 yards, 25 yards, and 8 yards. 4 straight plays. You knew the Jets were running the ball. They're trying to kill clock. They were up by 2 scores, and the Packers couldn't stop them. They were stacking the box, and they could not stop them from running that ball. So if we can get the run game going, Taylor is a play action pass type of quarterback. It's going to do nothing but open up that secondary and suck in those linebackers and those safeties to give Taylor a chance to hit Terry, to go over the top. Because if that can happen, we can control that line of scrimmage and control this game. We really got a shot, because the Packers are not the same juggernaut offense that we're used to.
Yeah. Do we have any word on Preston Smith?
What in regards to Preston?
Is he healthy? Will he be playing in this game? I don't know. I'm trying to look it up to see if he's healthy or whatever have you, because I really haven't even heard his name called a lot this year.
He's not hurt. Yeah, he's not on their injury report. The one person that is on their injury report that I don't want to say I'm happy about, but it is Randall Cobb is not going to be playing. So, that's going to be huge for us. But from a defensive perspective, they're just not doing as well this year. And I don't know why that's the case, and I'm probably jinxing myself. I'm not worried about their defense versus our offense. I think our offense is going to do what it needs to do to keep us in this game. I am more so concerned about what our defense is going to do against Aaron. And let me explain that, because yes, it's not the same Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he doesn't have his receiving core he's used to. Cobb's not going to be there, but they still got Lazard, and Lazard is still a heck of a player and had some nice deep catches. And how many times did we get a 12 men on the field penalty last week?
Twice.
That's Aaron's specialty. And they like to alternate in different player groups, knowing that the defense is going to have to shuffle and getting guys back and forth. So even though he might not have that arm strength like he used to, because he just can't grip that ball right this second, he still has his head, and it's still Aaron. The Packers are averaging 17 points a game. They've scored 107 points in 6 games this season. That's actually their fewest in any 6-game span with Rodgers as their starting quarterback. So their offense is struggling. And I saw a stat earlier. They haven't invested in a first-round pick in the offense since signing Love, that backup quarterback. They haven't signed a big-name free agent either on offense. So there's really no one on there from a free agent perspective. It's all homegrown rookie talent that you're relying on. And those other guys he's got, they're not stepping up. So our secondary has a chance to shut down this receiving core, because there's no real receiver other than Lazard that scares you.
Come on, Wild Goose.
I'm hoping Wild Goose steps up, man. But you know who I'm hoping steps up more is Jamin, because the Packers run a ton of RPO. And listeners that don't know, that's a run pass option. And when Rodgers is talking about simplifying things, I was going over and doing some research for the show. In 2019, they ran RPO 11% of the time. It went up to almost 18% of the time in 2020. And now in 22, they're running RPO 27% of the time. And there was a Packers beat reporter that actually had a film session he broke down for 25 minutes online. And it was very interesting. The guy's name is Dusty Evely. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but he broke down every Rodgers snap when they're running RPO, and he can see that Aaron is making his read pre-snap. He knows where he's going pre-snap. So if this guy's seeing it, and you've got other analysts out there seeing it, that to me is just fuel, hopefully, that Jack Del Rio is seeing it and that our defense is seeing it. And the reason why that's key is from a defense, you can dictate what the Packers do. If you know Rodgers is not making an adjustment post snap when he's running RPO, if you know that if you've got 8 men in the box, Rodgers is going to check the pass versus run, then you can dictate what's going to happen that play. And that's what I'm saying. If this defense can play disciplined, sound football, we can get Rodgers to do what we want versus him doing what they want us to do.
We will see him crouch down and hold that ball and get sacked. That's what I'm hoping for.
And it happened a ton last week. He got sacked 4 times for 36 yards. He got hit a bunch. He had a QBR of 17 last week. I mean, he did not do well. And his offensive line is a sieve right now. And, you know, I don't know a ton about Quinnen Williams. All I know is Deron Payne is playing for that bag, like Doc Walker likes to say.
Mm-hmm.
John Allen is playing like a man possessed. Montez Sweat is balling out. Same with F.A. Obada. So if our defensive backs can actually have the coverage dictate with a pass rush, then we got a chance to hit Rodgers left and right in this game. I'm not saying knock him out, but make him pay.
Make him feel that pressure on that thumb.
Yeah, definitely. And there was actually another stat that I saw. Aaron Jones, a running back, he has run into an 8-man box 1 time all season. He's had how many carries? But if it's an 8-man box, they're only running him 1 time into it the entire season. And this from Next Gen Stats. So if I'm the Commanders and I'm putting 8 men in that box, then I know Aaron's throwing that ball. If I know he's throwing that ball and I know the down and distance, then I can cheat. And we talked about it before, how defenses were cheating against Carson because he knows that our offensive line can't protect. So all of our routes were running short. And this is actually one of the things that the Giants did to Aaron in their game in London. It was a 4th and 2. They loaded the box knowing Aaron was going to keep that ball on an RPO and pass it instead. They pressed. Rodgers couldn't make that pass for the first down. It's those little things that give me hope that if Del Rio and our team having the extra time know this, and if they don't, someone please send them this clip from the show that our guys will be ready, that Wild Goose is going to be ready, that Fuller is going to be ready. I know St. Juice is going to be ready, but that our defense is going to be good to go because we've got a shot to really take these guys out, man.
Well, as I said on the Fox pregame show, we can make this work, right?
We can. And I'm not trying to talk myself into a win. There have been times in the past where I'm trying to, go out on a limb and find things. Just after watching the games, they're not the same Packers that used to beat us and used to be a contender. I'm not saying that they're not a contender, that they're not going to make the playoffs. But right now, when we're facing them this week, they're not as big a hill to climb as we thought it was week 1 or when the schedule came out.
Yeah, they are almost at one of their lowest points. But like you said, that doesn't matter because sometimes with us, you can have teams at the lowest point and then all of a sudden they're like a Hall of Fame team. So we want to keep them at their lowest point.
Yeah, and it's Aaron Rodgers. The guy's an MVP. The guy's a Hall of Famer. Think about him what you want in the playoffs, but it's still Aaron freaking Rodgers. And we just can't let him get in those guys' heads. And we asked for some questions online. We got a couple here. This one's from Steve saying that I bet the O-line will magically look better because Heinicke will get the ball out on time to the right receiver. Says Taylor Heinicke drives in time of possession. Long Taylor Heinicke drives in time of possession means we win. And I'm right there with you because Heinicke doesn't have those quick hitting plays like we saw Carson throw to Diami. So it's going to be longer, more methodical drives unless we can get a couple of gashes in the running game. But We do have a shot to get this dub, Steve, and I appreciate you chiming in, man.
Thank you.
What's your key? What do you think we have to do, Rally, for us to actually pull this out?
I think based upon everything that we've talked about, we've got to run the ball, and our front offensive linemen have got to block. I mean, that's what it's going to boil down to, and no penalties or trying to play penalty-free ball / mistake-free ball. That's what's going to be needed. And from the first game, I'm going to continue preaching it until they do it. 4 quarters of total football. Not a half, not 3, but 4 total quarters. And we will be victorious, bro. We've got everything we need right in front of our face. Just get it done.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Robbie Pugh chimed in on the text line. Commanders will win this game by our D-line putting pressure on A-Rod for 4 quarters. Take command. He's saying 21-17 win. And I'm right there with you, Robbie. If our D-line can control the line of scrimmage and shut down that run, and the thing is, a run pass option in RPO is a longer developing play. His offensive line has not been giving him a ton of time. And as Commanders fans, we know what that looks like because Carson hasn't had a ton of time.
Nah.
So if that D-line can continually put pressure on him, you'll see a frustrated Aaron Rodgers. And if you're not going to be at the game, I'm sure they're going to zoom in on his face on the sideline. And Brady went off on his offensive line last week when they lost to the Steelers. I can see Aaron doing the same thing this week if our D-line does take command of that line of scrimmage.
Our fingers are crossed.
We got Alex Abate chiming in, and Alex said, we can definitely win the game. Our defense plays the same way. Let Heinicke mix up the game, bootlegs, read options, trick plays. I believe we'll win by 10. I listened to the recent podcast. I'd have to disagree on Tailgate Ted's opinions. Heinicke is more explosive, which opens up the playbook. Then we can learn on the run. Then we can lean on the run more too. Ted is downplaying in Heinicke's ability. And Alex, I appreciate you chiming in. The thing out there on Twitter, and I was going back and forth with JP, which Taylor are we going to see? Are we going to see the Taylor that extends plays with his legs, or the Taylor that wants to be a pocket passer because he went out to that camp in California and worked on his arm strength? That, to me, is the question.
I think 2 things are going to dictate that. The first is the play by the offensive line. The second is him getting hit. So if the play by the offensive line isn't good, you're going to see that mobile quarterback. If he gets hit, you're going to see once again mobile quarterback. If the offensive line holds up, then I can see that pocket. But we know that's not really realistically his strong suit, playing from the pocket. So like Alex said, Scott, mix it up, man. This guy can pretty much roll to his left and right and kind of somewhat even throw on the run. So
I'm going to disagree with you on the run part, throwing on the run part. He's got bad mechanics and his ball sails if he's not set. That's one of Heinicke's knocks, is you can move the pocket, but if he is trying to throw and not actually set properly, he needs his entire body mechanic to get the ball where it has to go. And that's why he went to California and met with the same throwing coach that Carson has, because he wanted to work on his mechanics.
Okay. Well, then I'll go back and I will say, put him on the run out in space so he can stop and get himself set and throw the ball.
Yeah, they got to move the pocket. They've got to do different things like that. And they've got to just get him out of there. But part of his knock when he misses high, and this was a stat that came out last season, McLaurin led the league in contested catches. Well, a lot of that was because Heinicke was throwing balls up in the air that Terry had to come back for that were contested throws.
Yeah, he's got to sail him. He can't throw it on a rope.
Yeah. And I disagree with you a little bit, Alex, that it's going to open up the playbook. You're losing potentially a third of your playbook because Heinicke does not have the arm to make the throws that Carson did. And Scott Turner basically said, well, my playbook is all there now because Carson can make every throw. We know what throws Taylor can make. And defenses started beating Taylor last year when they switched to more to a man coverage versus zone coverage. Zone coverage, Taylor knew you let that receiver run to this part in the zone and he could throw them open. When they were playing our receivers man, Taylor wasn't doing as well because he didn't have the ability to throw them open because his arm just wasn't as strong. So what you get with his legs and extending plays, it's one thing. You just hope your offensive line can give those receivers time to adjust and get open at the same time.
So last week, a question was brought up prior to the Chicago game. Can Carson check out of a play? Do you think that Taylor will have the same latitude to be able to check out of a play if he sees a certain thing? Or
I do.
You think, okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's been with Scott Turner for so long. Scott was the only person that went to his pro day at ODU. I mean, he played in Minnesota when Scott was there. They know each other. This is his system. And it's why I thought that the Cowboys were going to beat us because Cooper Rush had been in Kellen Moore's system for 4 years.
Yeah.
Being a system quarterback, knowing where everything is supposed to be on that field, I do think that Scott's going to give him the ability. And Carson did check out of a play against the Titans when he hit one of those bombs at DMV. So he was allowed to make more adjustments as we went through. And I do think Taylor's going to have that flexibility this week going against Green Bay.
I look forward to it.
I do too, man. And we got another person chiming in here. This is Rafael Rubio. Rafael said, this is not the same old Commanders. We get this win easy. I love everybody's optimism, man.
Easy.
Yeah, easy.
Ooh, I'm not going to, Rafael, hey, bro, I love you, but it's the NFL, baby. Nothing's going to be easy.
No. And he also put here, the Jets are not the same team last year. And look who they won last week, dipping in some real cheese dip. It's nacho time on this Sunday with some jalapenos.
Oh, boy. Hot going in, hot going out. Look out, boy.
You're making me hungry, man. I appreciate the text in there, Raphael. For anyone else that wants to chime in, you can leave us a voicemail or a text at 202-677-5860. Guys, we really appreciate you helping us steer the show and getting everyone else's feedback on how they think we're going to win this week. And that's also what scares me, man. It really is, because everyone, at least that wears burgundy and gold, is picking us to beat the Packers.
Well, for once in our lives, we can say that we're together on something.
That is true. That is definitely true. May not agree where the stadium should go, but yeah. I've got a good feeling about this game. I am just, I don't want to say terrified. I'm scared because my heart is telling me, man, we can do this. We can pull this out. Mm-hmm. My head is saying it's Aaron freaking Rodgers, and he's on a 2-game losing streak. And Matt LaFleur is a better coach than Ron Rivera. Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Taylor Heinicke. It's the other pieces. We've got better receivers than they do. We've got a better defensive line than they do. Both of our offensive lines are trash. So which piece are we going to win over? We've got a better running game, you think. But I don't know, man. I'm a little bit terrified of this matchup just because of that.
We've got a better running game if our offensive line block the way that they need to, in the way that we've seen them be able to in spurts. How's that?
See, those spurts are maybe one play here and 2 plays there. That's the part that, I'm still concerned. We still have a banged up O-line. We still have sieves up the middle. You still don't have Sam Cosmi coming back. And they asked Rivera today, what do you think about putting Cosmi in at guard and moving Charles out to tackle and trying to have your best 5 guys blocking on that line? And he said, we're still trying to get Sam back when he's playing with that club on his hand. So I don't know what we're going to get. I do know that if we're going to win and beat the Packers, like you said, we've got to play 4 quarters of ball. We cannot play against ourselves. We got to play sound football. And these guys love Taylor. There's that intangible that you get from him coming back after being somewhat disrespected last offseason with the team bringing in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Being disrespected this season with the team bringing in Carson Wentz. And now he's getting his shot for the next 4 to 6 weeks. These guys are fans of him. He's friends with them, and they want to perform to the best of their abilities. Just, is that going to be enough?
Well, as the mother on the movie Friday said, Mama, this ain't enough. What did she say? Make it enough. So there you have it. Make it enough.
Yeah. And adversity, your team is either going to rise up and come together or crumble. And this locker room is not dividing right now. And we talked about it during training camp. It's all great that Carson's all lovey-dovey with everybody right now and everyone's getting along. Let's see how they respond when we got some adversity. And guess what? We got adversity on the field and off the field right now. It's everybody in the NFL against us. You got Jim Irsay talking about removing our owner. You've got, who the hell is their head coach? That donk in Indianapolis, talking about how Irsay is a good guy, this and that. I mean, I can't wait to get through this game, focus on this game, and then punch those Colts in the mouth next week. Because to me, the straight disrespect that we're getting as a fan base and that this team is getting right now, I'm hoping is what makes it enough for these guys to really step up on Sunday.
And I feel that they will, bro. They realize that out of all of this nonsense that's going on, technically, we are not out of it. And I'm not saying that we're going to be a deep playoff run team. I'm not saying that. But right now, you win one game, you're back into it. You win another game, you're back into it. So, and what else did I say? It could be worse. A lot of people are dogging us out. I get it. But the fact is, there are some teams who've only won one game. So it could be worse. We at least have 2 in our W column. And it's time to get all that white noise, filter all that noise out with the owner and the Colts and whatever have you. This is Green Bay. Filter all that crap out and play dominant football.
Yeah. Amen, man. Amen. And Julian, our last text message here said, Washington can win the game by running the ball effectively and working off of play action where Taylor Heinicke can use his legs to extend plays and keeping things simple. Defensively, send a lot of blitzes and make receivers not named Randall Cobb beat us and not allow runners. Those beasts in Green Bay to get going, or Rodgers to have time to make big plays. If we can shut down the run game and control possession, we should win. And good news is Cobb's got an ankle injury. He ain't going to be playing. We don't got to worry about facing him. So if we can shut down Lazard and keep those no-name guys off the actual stat sheet, we've got a good chance.
Don't make them Hall of Famers. Don't be Hall of Famers against us this week. And sometimes we have a tendency of allowing that to happen. You say, well, who was that kid? And he looks good against us. So we need to keep the no names nameless.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who that guy was for Tennessee that ended up catching that long bomb against us. And I remember sitting here looking like, who the hell is that guy? Where the hell did he come from? And it was one of their 3rd or 4th string receivers. And, you know, teams of the past, we would play down to our competition. You know, Redskin teams of the past, that was just kind of their MO. Well,
we did. Yeah.
We get a chance now to play potentially up to our competition. And you're hoping that maybe we get a chance. And that was Nick Westbrook Ikahini. Guy had a 61-yard bomb that day.
That hurt us.
Yeah, it was killer. And we got to make sure that Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson and Samari Tor and those guys, Amari Rogers, don't beat us on Sunday, because none of those guys are household names. If you've got those guys on your fantasy squad, I don't think you're going to win. I don't think you're making the playoffs. You might need to start making some trades. If you got Alan Lazard, then yeah, you probably got a somewhat decent team. But who is your Woodbridge Collectibles signature player this week that has to perform to make sure you and me and the rest of Burgundy and Gold walks out smiling on Sunday?
Well, it's too easy to say Taylor Heinicke, so that's not who it is. It's Terry McLaurin. And I say Terry McLaurin because one thing that we do know is that there's going to be some off-scripted plays that Taylor's going to produce. And one thing that Terry can do is get open on those off-scripted plays. So once that happens and hypothetically the play breaks down, I'm looking forward to seeing Terry make those catches that we know he can make and that he's done with the connection last year with Heinicke when he was pretty much the only option that we had.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's definitely a good one. I mean, we mentioned earlier, Terry was 7 for $122 in the tutty. So if he can get to the Terry of old that we're used to seeing Heinicke throw to last year, then we got a good chance of him being that signature player from Woodbridge Collectibles. For me, it's got to be B-Rock. And I think if we can really get him going, we can open up that play action for Taylor. And we got a chance to pull out this dub. And one of our P1s, Reggie, just sent us a simple tweet. And the tweet was, "I believe that we will win." And it reminded me of that Pitbull song where he's going back and forth. And I can't remember which soccer team it was, but just that chant, man. That's got to be this fan base this week. We got to believe that we will win. And we take it one day at a time, one game at a time. We just tune out all the other noise and just focus on being fans for a change and having fun, and everything else will fall into place.
Sure.
But from a game prediction perspective, I believe that we will win. I believe that we can pull this game out, and I think we're going to be able to do it 24-13 versus the Pack.
Well, I think my score is going to be a little bit lower because I don't think we've scored 20 some. Well, actually, yes, we did against Detroit. I think we scored 22. I think it was. So I'm going to say it's going to be a little less than that. I'm going to say 19-17. Close game.
Man, I hate these close games. I prefer not to be puckering in my seat. But you know what? We both are picking the Commanders to win this week. We know that all of our listeners, at least that chimed in, are as well. I can't wait to recap this game with you on Monday. It's going to be an interesting one, man. And I'm going to be out there doing something special for people with cancer. If you guys do get a chance to come out, I hope to see you out there at the tailgate, at the game. Make sure you find Rally and me. I know my man loves taking pictures with people in the stands. And I appreciate you guys sticking around for another episode of Mess Hall with us.
And before we close it out, I am going to get my cheek swabbed. So look for me to get that done Sunday. And after that, it's game time, baby. Look here, guys. In closing, I always tell you, you could be anywhere in the world listening to whatever have you, but we appreciate you clicking the subscribe, the like, and tuning in to the DMV Mess Hall. That's going to do it for this week's show. Rep it hard, but don't rep it at all. Tailgate Ted, Rally Captain.